So a lot of times us guitar players we tend to use huge chords like that, for playing chord melodies. But you don't necessarily have to use big chords to make them sound big. In fact, what happens is in solo guitar, we often tend to use smaller chords, specifically shell voicings. Okay, so that's what today's video is about. It's about shell voicings. Shell voicings are essentially seventh chords, but they're three note versions of seventh chords. Okay, so rather than having 1, 3, 5, 7 of any kind of a chord quality, we are only using the root, the third, and the seventh. So the root, the guide tones. Essentially, that is what builds a shell chord. Okay. Now, in terms of shapes, there are technically four kinds of chord qualities that are important to know. The others, it's not that hard to figure them out. So the four important ones are major seventh, minor seventh, which also happens to be the same shape for minor 7 flat 5. I'll come to that a little later. Dominant seventh, and finally diminished seventh. Okay, cool. So now for major seventh, if we play a root third and seven, let's say we are in the key of E flat. Okay, so I got my E flat right here. So root third, major seven, right? And you can always try and invert it as well. Like maybe you can turn this into a spread. So you play the third an octave above, right? The same exact shape you can play here as well, using the sixth string as your root. So now, the way I used to go about it when I was going through Berkeley is I literally memorized the major seven shapes. So I knew that, that, and that. These are gonna be the three most important shapes to remember for myself. And then you just alter them to get the other chord qualities. I know that if I have to turn this into a dominant 7, I flat the 7 because my root and third remain the same. Okay? Now, same thing, I can play the third up an octave and I end up with this particular shape for that. Same thing here, major 7, 7 flat. Okay? Turning it into a dominant 7. So far we got major 7th, dominant 7th, major 7th, and then dominant 7th, major 7th, dominant 7th. Now, if we further lower the third, that gives me my minor 7th and minor 7 flat 5. Now, the reason why this shape works for both is because since the 5 is not being used in these particular voicings, we don't have to worry about it, right? Because both minus 7 and minus 7 flat 5 slash half diminished, they have root, flat 3, and flat 7 as common. Only the 5 is different. A minus 7 has a natural 5, a perfect fifth interval, and a minus 7 flat 5, as the name suggests, has a flat 5 or a diminished fifth interval in it. So, hence, same shape works for all of them, right? Third up an octave, same thing here, okay? Third up an octave. So we got a minus 7. And finally, we got a diminished 7th, okay? Now, for the diminished 7th, what we're doing is root, flat third, and double flat 7, which also happens to be a natural 6, right? Now, third up an octave, same thing here. Cool. So far we got major 7th, major 7th, major 7th, dominant 7th, dominant 7th, dominant 7th, minor 7, minor 7th, minor 7th, and then diminished 7th, diminished 7th, and diminished 7th. Okay, so now these are quite literally all of the ones that you need to know to start off with. Okay, now when we talk about major 6, we simply take the major 7 chord, replace the 7 with a 6, and we end up with a major 6 triad, right? Major 6 shell chord. Now same thing you can apply here as well. I know my major 7th is right here, so I flat that, right? I go down a whole step and I get my major 6. Now Same thing, up an octave. So my third is up an octave. Yeah. Now, as you can see, the moment I switch from, that already starts sounding very musical, right? So, how I would practice it is any kind of a chord quality I work on. Let's say I'm working on the minor 7. Okay. I'm gonna create some kind of a simple line to resolve to that. Something on those lines. Or maybe, etc. If I want, I can turn this into a minor 6 as well, which also happens to be the same shape as a diminished 7th, right? Because again, the minor 6 is quite literally 1 flat 3 5 and natural 6, whereas the diminished 7th is 1 flat 3 flat 5 and double flat 7, which is natural 6. So if the 5 is not being used at all, the same shape works for both of them, right? So you get like a Dorian kind of sound from there. So yeah, quick recap: major 7th, major 7th, major 7th. Okay, minor 7th. Sorry, no, I did dominant 7th for the second. So dominant 7th, dominant 7th, dominant 7th, minor 7th, minor 7th, minor 7th, diminished 7th, diminished 7th, and diminished 7th. Cool. So hopefully that was helpful. It's a great way to, I'm not gonna go deep into the whole key change part and all that. Do that yourself. That's your homework. Okay. If you like this video, consider subscribing to the channel, consider liking the video, and consider sharing the video. That's great. If you want to learn this and a lot of other stuff in depth, get in touch with me for private lessons. I am a full-time music educator. My details are in the description box below, and I'll possibly add it somewhere on the screen as well. And if you want to support this channel, if you like what I do, you can also check out my music on my Bandcamp page. I'll add a link in the description for that as well. So thank you guys for watching. I'll be back with another video soon-ish at some point. Just thought I'd make a quick video on shell chords before I hit the bed after a long day of lessons. So yeah, thank you for tolerating my tired face. I'll see you.